I was about 9 or 10 years of age when I actually started drawing.
Mm.
I had an accident with I lost my eye, and I was in hospital, and the surgeon suggested that I do some drawings to get some coordination going. So I actually started then. Of course, my grandmother used to do some drawings as well, so I just started from there as a child, I think, and enjoyed it, yeah.
And when did you first realise you might be able to have a career as an artist?
I'm not quite sure of the date, but it's back in the 80s. Will Roberts visited a gallery in Ystrad, in the library in Ystrad, actually. And he liked my work, got in touch with me, got in touch with the Albany in Cardiff, and it just took off from there. And he said, you should be doing this full time, so I started doing it full time.
And he became a bit of a mentor to you?
He did, very much so, yes. He's a gentleman and a gentleman, and a lovely, lovely guy, very helpful guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nice guy.
And tell me a bit about your other mentor.
Herman, Joseph Herman, yes. Met him after I met Will. I gave him a ring one day, and I first saw his work in the Eisteddfod in Llanelli back in the 1960s. Fell in love with his work because I was living in the little village of Godricrai. I was seeing these miners every day, but never actually seen them in the way that he was seeing them. Years later, much later on, I was 20 when I first saw his work. So it must have been 30, 40 years afterwards. I gave him a ring, and he said, come up to my studio tomorrow. So we became big pals then. He liked my work, of course, obviously I liked his. But it was nice, and he's another nice guy as well. Of course, he and Will Roberts, once upon a time, were big pals.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how did Herman influence your work? Did he influence your work?
I think a lot of artists are influenced by other artists. I don't know, there was something about this work, it had that sculptural quality about it. It was intense, it was powerful, it was poetic, it was strong. It just had all the magic without having too much lines and things in it. It was just, it had that little magic quality. That's what I liked about it.
Wonderful. And tell me about your choice of subject matter. What inspires you to paint?
Well, once upon a time I used to paint landscapes, a lot of landscapes. But the more time I spent with Joseph Herman, it's not my work changed, only I started looking at people rather than landscapes. And the same with Will Roberts. He painted, as you know, farmers and people primarily. He did some landscapes, but there are always people in them. And my work just changed from doing landscapes to figurative work. I just love a people, I think.
So that's continued to be
Still
your main
at the
focus.
moment, yes. But I step out of the box occasionally and do perhaps a pot of flowers or the fish out in Swansea or something, but it's still figurative work in a different environment.
So tell me a bit more about the still life paintings that are in this exhibition.
Well, occasionally, as I say, I don't like doing pretty flowers. I just would like to do something with a little slightly different element and plus change the colour palette a bit, but just something different. Step out of the box occasionally, which is nice.
Right. Do you paint from life?
Paint from life. How do you mean paint by life? What do you mean by paint by life?
Do you have the flowers in front of you?
No. If I see it, I'll do a quick sketch of it,
Right.
and then I'll improvise some of them.
Tell me a bit more about your sketching, because I know you've got lots and lots of sketchbooks.
Drawers full of sketchbooks. Yeah, that's my first instinct. It's always my first response to a subject matter is to do a quick drawing of it, and then I try and keep that, as Herman used to say, try and keep that simplicity. Just cut out what's not essential, just the inessential. Just cut it out, because then you're concentrated on the form and the shape, and then you might get some angst coming through. Once you start putting too much detail in, that's what I feel as well. If you put too much detail in, perhaps the figure becomes a personality or a character. I just like leaving, just perhaps giving him a mask or suggestion of a face, and then the viewer can fill in the rest himself by imagining what the guy could look like. But I just give them a form.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a bit more about that word angst that you mentioned there.
I don't know. I've looked the word up, and I think it's not so much a sadness. It's just a feeling, perhaps, of melancholy or something like that. So I think it's a powerful word, I think. And I hope it comes through in the paintings.
Is it to do with the past and the past?
Oh yes, very much so, I think. Yes, especially I've got some photographs in the drawer. My father was a coal miner, and once you start looking back at old photographs and memories of what the valleys used to be like, I think there's that. Now, I don't like the word nostalgia in paintings, but it's just that it was hard times, and yet there's a nice community feel with everybody then. People are much happier, I think, then. So whether that interprets into angst for the past, I'm not sure, or a longing for the past, I don't know.
So you start off with sketches.
Yeah.
What happens then when you come back to the studio? Tell me a bit about your materials and the process that you go through.
Well, materials, I paint on canvas, I paint on paper, I draw on paper, I use ink, I use oil, I use pastels. I like to keep my work moving all the time. I don't like it standing still. I wouldn't like to be painting in a repetitive process where I can get the same size canvas or the same texture of canvas and using exactly the same oil palette or the colour palette. I just like to change it, and the work evolves and change it. It just moves along with me, you know. I think, or I move it with it. But I don't like my work to be. I think there is a sameness about it because it's primarily figurative work. But when you look at them closely, there's a different texture to them and a different feel to them. It's not so much an experimentation. It's not experimenting. It's just I just love using different materials on different textures. You get what I call accidental marks, which it works. Not always, mind, but sometimes it works.
I noticed there's quite a few paintings of fishermen and their boats in this show.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about how that work came about?
Well, I did an exhibition a long time ago in a gallery in Swansea of what they call Pockets Wharf in Swansea. I just wanted to step out of the box and look at different figures, and what struck me about those guys, it's a hard industry to be working in, like mining was, like farming was, or is. And these guys have the same quality because they were hard-working men, difficult circumstances, hard, intense work. I think it's still an industry that exists, but I think it's getting harder for them all the time because of the cost of all the diesel and the equipment. And of course I'm seeing these boats in the harbour where they're working on the boats. I don't go out and see them working. That again is, like, I knew the kind of work my father did, but didn't go down the mines with him. I went to the small mines working in the summer, but never went down the drift mines down on the coalface. That was for the real men, like these fishermen. They go out about 4 or 5 days at a time. Now that's hard work. But seeing these guys in this place called Pockets Wharf, they're the same people as, it could be miners, they could be steel workers, they're just hard-working men, but there's slightly different colour palette there. I'm not interested in the sleek marine poser boats, I call them. They're just pretty boats. I'm not interested in that. It's they're like mini factories, these guys work on. Hard, intense work, and it's just that love of the work element, or the work ethic again. It's something about the guys. And talking to them, they're good, great characters. How
has your style changed over the years?
Well, this is a very early one. I think I did this back in 1976, 77. I used to draw it with a very fine rotring pen, very detailed. Every leaf was drawn in, every stone was drawn in, and it ended up with a very detailed. They look like etchings, but they were not. They're actually drawings. And the same with this bridge down in Gleis before they pulled it down. This was a very tight. You can see every pebble is drawn in. But it evolved then into my work. It wasn't giving me any pleasure. It was became very laborious. So my work started loosening up after meeting the likes of Will Roberts and Herman and things like that. It was loosening up, and then it's evolved into drawings like those figures carrying boxes, or two men carrying, or a man carrying buckets. It's to cut out the essential bits, or inessential detail, I think. I don't need it anymore.
What do you most enjoy about your work?
I think it's the process of it. I can't imagine what I'd be doing if I didn't have what I'm doing. It's there are days when I can go out. I don't think I go looking for subject matter. It just, you come across it by accident. Just past two guys sitting on a bench, for example. The landscape behind them does nothing at all for me. It's just, there's something about their body language and then having a chat. And so I could do a quick little sketch, and that could evolve into, and has evolved into, many paintings, or just a couple sitting on a bench or something, you know. But what I miss about it, I don't know, it's the whole process. It's become my life now.